Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourselves in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to another exciting installment of Madness in London. This evening's scene is going to be set in the baronial castle in the barony of the Clockwork Heart, where Canthos Nightshade Aplianan is currently seeing to the various different petitioners who are requesting things of the Baron, who is currently in absentia doing some other more important work than having to deal with the petty and paltry disputes of individuals. He has sent at least one request, however, for a certain commoner to join him for a cup of tea and a chat, because that is how he phrased it. It was so eminently polite.
The Detlef Varmbreeze is at the castle because I guess the castle has training grounds, is it correct?
Oh, one would assume so, yes.
After taking permission, I actually came here to ask permission from Chamberlain to work and train the castle if he's allowed. So he will enter. He will look around and ask people for the Chamberlain, which they will tell he's in the hall, doing Chamberlain stuff. When Kantos will see him, he will see the same man, but he is wearing a black sheepplate, which has a broadsword in his back. The sword looks kind of like cool, but he slowly approaches, bows in front of Kantos if he's allowed to go near him.
Oh, as I say, Canthos is he has basically a desk set up about 10 to 15 feet away and to the left of the baronial throne, which he's currently sitting behind. When he sees his fellow Shi enter, he'll dismiss the scribes who are currently probably feverishly writing down information on scrolls, and he'll say, "Good afternoon. I'm not exactly sure what's the." He stops to contemplate for a moment. Mr. Delaf, I do hope you are well this evening or this afternoon.
He smiles and nods. There is this appreciation in him. If you roll perception empathy, I can tell you more.
I'll make that roll. Hashtag dice rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Four successes.
You didn't call him Oathbreaker.
Oh. Canthos is far too polite. He will say, I see that you have managed to find something that is suitable in our armories. At least there is that.
Our Lord Nathan is really generous. He gave me this sword and armor that I needed, which comes with the permission to carry those, which is more than I can ask for. I also went to the bazaar of knockers, where I found more. I'm really happy that they also deal with the currency of the Grey World.
Canthos will nod and he will say, as a matter of fact, if you would not mind staying here for a few moments, I have a piece of business to deal with, but then I would wish to talk to you on a side matter that may, in fact, yield you currency of our world, if that is something you are interested in.
He nods.
Canthos kind of goes back to, he will briefly look over the papers on his desk, kind of flicking through them, making sure that everything is in order, as he waits for a certain Boggin to join them.
In walks the unhappiest and largest Boggin you've ever seen. He looks more like a troll when he does a Boggin. But you got the telltale crinkle in his eyes and dark skin and a larger scale. It's not quite armor, but it's like some sort of workman's garb that he has on, like somebody who would be working around the place. So, some sort of craftsman. And he walks in. His eyes are like red, like he kind of looks around, and when his eyes set on Canthos, he just kind of walks towards him.
Canthos will sit there in his chair behind his desk, and he will smile very large, kind of, very welcoming smile, and he will say, "Ah, Mr. Parchment, a pleasure to see you again."
Well, it seems himself has something waiting for me, innit?
I'm not exactly sure if that was English. I'll go with it was. Would you care to take a seat?
It would be disrespectful if I didn't know.
I'm, however, inviting you to take a seat, so there is no disrespect.
He sits. He steeples his fingers.
May I offer you something to drink? Tea, or something perhaps a little stronger?
Fancy a pint.
Very well. He will kind of, summon one of the attendants who will putter off, and a couple of minutes later will return with a pint of ale or some kind of craft beer. Coincidentally, he will have also offered Delaf a drink if he wants one while he waits. If he wants one. Canthus. He likes pleasing people. But he will smile at the bargain and he will say, "Now, Mr. Parchment, it's so lovely to see you again. I trust business as well."
It is what it is.
Of course it is. So, I'm led to understand that the Baron has given you permission to write contracts, etc., and to keep these contracts and to oversee the fairity and equilateral agreement of these contracts. Is that correct?
He said I could plumb my trade.
Yes, I'm sure he did. However, I would like to make a special request. I'd like to make a request of you on behalf of myself and on behalf of my office, if you would not mind.
You can make your request. I may not live up to it.
Very well, then. I would simply like, whenever an official contract, particularly as it pertains to entities of the dreaming, is made, and indeed when certain powers and benefices are called upon in order to assure such contracts, that I simply be given a copy of them. My office be given a copy of them, rather.
I don't write these contracts down, son. Ain't how it works. It's an option, but not what I use.
He'll nod, and he will say, "May I ask why you do not write them down?"
Steal a piece of paper.
Yes.
If it's betwixt me, the individual, and the dreaming, though, it's ought to get hold of it, innit? Also, it's an insurance factor for the one what's making the contract. See, because if I was to say we was to have ourselves a bit of a collab, a bit of a chin wag, and we decide on something, and we swear off on, say, a sword, as it were, be used to harm you. That blade could be used to harm you a great deal. Now, if I've got such a thing in my possession as some sort of collateral, I'm holding something over your head, you know. As opposed to the way I do it, it's between you, I, and the dream.
Canthos will nod where he's sitting, and he will say, I quite understand your perspective, Mr. Parchment. However, you must also understand that it is the Baron's duty ultimately to be the arbiter of any fairness and agreement as it may pertain to our people and their rights and justices. So, possessing actual terms and conditions of contracts as written would be immensely valuable for those of us who may have to at some point dispense justice based upon them.
What you don't see, because the dreaming takes care of that, you're thinking of actual contracts. I don't write those. Those are, anybody can come up with an oath. Oaths are simple. They're basic. Contracts an actual conversation, you and magic around you. Setting it to the law, speaking truth into existence, the real old magic. You know what I mean?
Oh yes. I quite understand what it is you're saying. However,
it ain't naming, it ain't sovereign. True. But it's a magic all its own.
All right. Let us make the assumption, Mr. Parchment, that someone breaks one of your contracts. A fair assessment? It may happen. What kind of penalty do you feel is just for such an individual?
If it was an oath breaker,
yeah,
or if there was someone what welched on a bet, then is what you're saying.
My question is, you say the dreaming will provide its punishment, and indeed the dreaming will. However, if you, Mr. Parchment, were to proceed to go out and do what you perceive to be justice upon this individual, got vengeance, as it were, that would still be breaking our law. You understand?
I wouldn't do that. It's not how contracts work. It's not the sort of things I facilitate, sir. See, okay, it's how I apply my trade. Let's say Knight A, come to B, want to have themselves a bit of an agreement. They want someone to sanctify it. Sanctifies it betwixt the two. Now, my job, real simple, is to know if either one of them don't hold up his end. I then pass along this information because the dreaming lets me know. Now, because I'm the contract writer, were I inclined, I could, if I so chose, exert some sort of magical prohibition, as it were, or use some sort of magic at a range of, well, it doesn't really matter. But I don't do that, see? That's not how I do business. I simply let the parties know if someone's not holding up their end. That's it. It's real simple. I'm not holding anything over anybody's head. I'm not going to go and do a bit of a wall-to-wall counseling, as it were, anyway. I'm not breaking anybody's legs. Folks want to make agreements. They want these agreements to stick. That's all contracts is for, at its base. Now, anything else would be some sort of leg breaker, and that would be stepping on the toes of nobility and on the power of the Baron.
I think we understand each other rather well, Mr. Parchment. However, as I have said, and I believe you to be a reasonable man, if it is any contract is ever struck that you believe that the Baron's office needs to be made aware of, I have no doubt that you will do your citizenly duty.
As long as the contract writers want it. Don't explicitly state that it not be public knowledge.
So you're saying that you would voluntarily cover treason for your contracts?
I would have to, as it were. But I wouldn't write that contract, would I?
I have no doubt that you would, sir.
There is those that would, though.
Indeed. I'm merely curious what you would do in the event that someone wished to write a contract with you, signed and sealed, justifiably to the dreaming, etc. As it would pertain treason, would you refuse to bind this contract as covenant?
Is you asking me my last subject of old Nathan there?
Please refer to him by his proper title.
Well, I don't really have to. Not unless he says so.
I'm telling you to.
And as his oath states, he works for us. We don't work for him.
Detlef is looking at Kantos like he's not used to a commoner back-talking someone. Then he looks
Canthos. Oh, sorry, continue, Amachon.
Then he looks at the commoner, but he's continuing listening to the conversation. Especially, he got like, I'm really sorry, dude. I am really sorry. I cut you off this time. Please go.
No, I was just letting Tiger know. Yeah, just let Tiger know. So basically, Canthos has just set up a little desk in the throne room, and he's just doing what I'm referring to as hashtag Chamberlain things, which is basically anything the Baron doesn't want to do. So we're currently having a chat at Canthos' desk about the nature of being a good citizen. Oh God, this has ended weird.
Okay, I guess. Ah, shit. I guess Nathan will walk in, and his livery and his circlet and all that good noise. Probably from further within the castle, like maybe he just woke up from a nap or something. He kind of blinks his eyes sleepily a little bit. Oh, hey, we have people.
When he enters, Canthos will stand from his from his chair that he's sitting in, and he'll give a deep bow.
Detlef will rise and I also give a deep bow.
Oh, etiquette at the situation. Give me to roll dice. That will.
How much etiquette do you have?
3.
3. I figured that'd be enough to know it's usually polite to bow when the Baron enters.
Okay.
Tim approves.
Coincidentally, I love how we can just get this wonderful view of all of Tiger's empty soda containers.
Boy's got a problem. He needs some water, boy.
I'm not even sure. I think one of them is Pepsi, but I've got no fucking idea what the other two are.
Those are both
The other two are,
mountain. Real
throwbacks. Yeah.
I hate you. I hate you, Tiger.
Okay.
Those are hymns.
Well, I hate both of you. They ran out down here.
Oh, that sucks.
Anyway,
on.
Canthos will say, "I assume you slept well, my lord."
So I'll kind of give a little hand gesture.
Before he sits back down in his chair, and he will say, "Myself and Mr. Parchment are having a conversation as it pertains to," he contemplates, "being a good citizen and the role Mr. Parchment likes to think of himself as fulfilling."
I see. So what conclusion have you two come to thus far?
Canthos will say that you should, well, basically, that I believe Mr. Parchment has said that he will not take contracts and keep them, that he will not intentionally take contracts from people who are planning treasonous things against the barony, which is, I believe, a step in the right direction.
That sounds fair.
We have come to this quorum, have we not, Mr. Parchment?
If that's what you say, yeah, sure. Okay.
Would you be willing to sign a contract to that extent?
I'm not signing nothing.
Would you be willing to stipulate a contract to that extent?
Let's explain you.
He contemplates. Because I know you could, in theory. Can you have a contract that you sign as part of that you basically agree with as part of an ideal?
No,
I swear on something, I will not do this.
nope, that's our base. No.
That takes like sovereign or something.
Oh yeah, because you can do it with a
And then-
Geos.
Why you? Here's my question, sir. If I may be so bold as to ask, what's the issue? What's the issue with my contract? What makes you think was it so dangerous? Where you want me to swear some sort of deal? Come on now, what's gonna come to me? There's some back alley noble confab that's gonna go down. It's not gonna be at my door.
Sorry, which one of us was he addressing the question to?
Both of you kind of. He's like, I don't understand why I got to swear some sort of contract. I'm not gonna do anything. Is everyone gonna be? Is everyone gonna be forced to take this new oath? Or is it just folks what know how to make contracts?
Finish the whole thing for a second. I personally have not asked you to make such a contract, and quite frankly, even if you were to enact contracts in treasonous ways against this barony, I have zero doubt in my mind that if anybody were to attempt anything, I could put a stop to it.
I also gave him my word.
I asked you to be, a contract maker because one, you had already asked the former baron to be such a thing, and two, you seemed more than willing to continue on the task.
Perhaps I should enlighten. I asked Mr. The reason I think this conversation came about was I asked Mr. Parchment that if he is going to make official contracts, particularly as it pertains to knights, squires, and other peoples of importance within this barony, that we be provided with a written copy of the contract after it is made, so that we may keep it as a form of record. Mr. Parchment then informed me that, and I quote, he does not do contracts like that, end quote.
The issue with that is if they make the contracts in private and then they just don't make the record, we still won't know the contract has been made. That is not a verification that the contract has been made or what it is for necessarily. It's very easy to lie on paper. You just write down what you want them to believe.
Lordship's got a point.
So he can swear.
Oh,
he can swear to provide paper. He can swear to provide paper records all day, but even that's not a good way to provide verification. Not that I am doubting his moral character, of course. I'm just saying that that is something that perhaps some unsavory types could do.
Canthos will nod, and he will say, my concern is more so as it pertains to justice, my lord. When it comes down to it, it would be easier to have some written record as it pertains to an agreement than none. And also, if it is ever called to justice, or for individuals wishing to achieve or acquire justice, if they feel they have been cheated, having a record stretching back to the time of the incident would be rather valuable.
Simple idea, if it pleases the court, if it helps.
Nathan will give him the nod.
My lord, may I present an opinion?
Yeah, go for it.
As the Chamberlain was working with many scribes of this beautiful barony has, Mr. Chamberlain is doing a job which is benefiting many changelings and many commoners. If I don't know if the nobles are going to him for such interactions, but he is providing the art contact, as far as I understand, to separate groups who wants to make a deal. And for the security of this barony, it is important for Chamberlain and the Baron to know what kind of deals are made, which I understand Mr. Parchment's uh, defense, where he believes, as far as I can see, but please correct me if I'm wrong, that this can be seen as untrustworthy by his customers. But as this benefiting the barony, by barony and baron, by barony's baron and the chamberlain knowing about the individual's actions, maybe Mr. Parchment can be part of the baron's court by working with a scribe and earn money which comes with dross or the favor of the barony and its baron and its chamberlain by doing this action. So the both sides will earn many things out of this deal. And as Mr. Parchment has the art of the contract, this can be a contract between the Chamberlain and the Mr. Parchment, so it can be sealed and be protected by an art. I apologize if I overstep my bounds, as he slowly bows to the Countess and the Lord again.
That makes sense to me. It seems like a nice middle ground. But the issue
I got a better idea.
What was that, Marcus?
I got a better idea.
Go ahead.
A decree. Anybody what's got title, if they want to use me as a contract maker, they got to swear it in front of you, or they can't do it. Since the nobles are the ones you're most concerned with.
That sounds fair to me.
And Canthos, for his part, gives a kind of a seated shrug, and he says, I'm fine with either measure. It is entirely up to you, my lord, whichever you prefer.
I'm not here to force people into positions that they do not wish to be in, and although I will not speak for him, that Parchment does not wish to be a member of my court. Am I correct in assuming that?
It would be. Correct, sir.
So, I'm not going to force him to be a member of my court. However, we will make this decree that Parchment has suggested that anyone with title who wishes to swear a contract, it must be done in either mine or Canthos' presence.
And Canthos will nod, and he will basically take out a quill and parchment because he's sitting at a desk, and will basically scribble that decree down, at which point he'll spin it around and kind of put the pen down in front of Nathan so he can sign the decree into decree Enos.
Also, I would suggest putting it or wording it so that we must be in sound mind and body, so that, because technically if we were asleep and did the contract, that would still be within our presence. You understand what I'm saying?
He will make the suitable alteration.
Nathan will read it and he will sign it.
Have you gotten your show yet?
Probably. It's up to you.
Signet ring.
Okay. And he'll pull out a small signet ring. And
Canthus will kind of put the wax on it so it can be sealed with a wax seal. So you just press your ring into it. Wonderful. I will see to it that the heralds are sent out in order to, and he rolls it up. I'll have some copies made and see to it that the heralds are sent out to send this to the various different freeholds. On that topic, my lord, I had an idea as it pertains to, well, we would need a trusted individual to do this, and an individual who could be seen as... he contemplates his next words. An individual who could be seen as wishing to secure benefits for noble action. He nods at his choice of phrase, and he says, ultimately, you came into power just a handful of days ago, and there are an immense amount of things in this barony that require cataloging, is the phrase I will use. So, for example, we don't know what our quote-unquote taxable assets are. We don't know what it is that... We don't have a fair census of the changeling population. We don't have an idea as to any of this that will be needed in order to successfully both tax and govern the barony. So I was thinking that we need to have a census done in order to ascertain these questions. And it just so happens that, well, when it comes down to it, it would be considered, any knight or even squire who was asked to do this might consider it to be a task that is logistic and beneath their concern. However, we do have a noted gentleman here who I believe we can trust to be honorable of unbreachable morality towards the task, but who is also not constrained via the knightly or chivalric needs or honorary honors anymore. And he says, gesturing with his head at Delaf.
Detlef, are you okay with volunteering to perform a census on the citizens of this barony?
OOC, I want to understand what I'm about to do. He needs
okay.
to...
Oh, sorry,
you basically kind of go door to door and talk to people and see, you know, like their name and where they live and any freeholds they have and the
Oh, totally.
yeah,
produced by it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's basically so the barony has an idea of what we can tax and how much tax we can take and how many people live here, etc.
Okay. I would also create a map for you, if it's so your wish, my lord.
That'd probably be a good idea. Yeah, if you have the time.
He nods.
Parchment has a great big smile on his face. Here.
At this point, at this point, Canthus will basically write another. Not quite a decree, but another kind of official document to identify the man carrying it as such. And he will kind of look up at Nathan and shrug, and he'll say, "Until such time as we actually understand the barony's funds and situation, I'm happy to pay Mr. Delaf out of my own pocket and just charge it to the barony when tax revenue starts to roll in, if that's agreeable."
It's fine by me.
Wonderful. Mr. Delaf, shall we say 5 dross a week?
He nods.
Very well then.
That currency you don't understand.
What was that, Marcus?
The Parchment seems to be the only currency that you don't understand.
I beg your pardon, sir. What does that mean?
Freehold functions on all kinds of cash, all kinds of currency. You guys focus on drugs. What about the outside world, the gray world? What about
My comment wasn't as it pertains to the financial ponderance. I know that, but what do you mean by quote you people?
that? You lot, everyone inside here. There's a world outside this freehold where people need to buy things. Dross isn't the only money that exists.
I would rather, Mr. Parchment, if you would refrain from calling the nobles of this barony, quote, you people, end quote.
I personally don't give a shit. He is right. There is another world besides this one, and he'll kind of gesture for you. If I can provide what I think is a satisfactory answer, Mr. Parchment, I hold no power there. In the gray world, I'm just a dude that makes clocks. As far as the regular people are concerned, going up to somebody and saying, "Hey, you haven't paid your taxes yet. Give me 20 quid or whatever," is gonna
Liz,
get attention.
that may be true. Thing is, there's some people it's Dross poor, but it's cash rich.
So are you offering to pay your taxes to the barony in grey world money, in that case, Mr. Parchment?
Why not? Keeps the doors open and the lights on. I mean, who even owns this building?
Everyone just kind of points at Nathan, because we think he owns this building.
Sorry.
I've not gotten a chance to look at this building in the gray world.
Thing is, I don't just specialize in contracts at the Fayrite. I specialize in contracts in the metal world too.
But yes, he will. Canthos will slide the identifying parchment across to Delaf and say, "There you go. You may begin. Well, whenever you feel you are ready to begin."
He takes the parchment really kindly, puts it to his, actually holds it in his hand, nods, gives a respect that the squire would deserve, as he is not a squire. And then he turns towards the baron, bows. My baron, I would like to start as soon as I can. May I have your leave?
He'll nod.
And he will nod to Mr. Parchment.
I got enough etiquette to know whether or not this guy's noble or not, is he?
He is not.
He's not a noble, but he's a she.
Yeah, he wears nothing indicating he's a noble.
He's gonna raise his eyebrow in the general direction.
He looks at Mr. Parchment. Is there a problem, Mr. Parchment?
No, not a one.
He nods and slowly leaves as he is given a leave.
Canthos will smile, and he'll say, "Ah, then, so wonderful that we've gotten so much work done. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Parchment?"
I ain't done any work yet. We got ourselves a problem.
Do we?
Oh yeah, huge one. Well, it's not huge. It's if you don't look at things the way I look at things. Me and Nathan was discussing it the other day. I mean, the Baron was discussing it the other day.
And what problem might this be?
I think he'll tell you, sir. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll let you blabber that on noble like.
Essentially, what we're dealing with is we need to politely, of course, ensure that our people are protected from the other kinds of supernatural creatures. Because while there was an agreement of non-hostility back in Hong Kong, there's no such agreement now.
Canthos will nod, and he will say, have you had any idea on if they are hostile, or do you have any idea on if they are currently hostile or not?
From what I've seen, no, they're not. But I've only been able to meet with the mages.
Was this anything to do with why you returned home 2 days ago rather upset? Raised his eyebrow.
No. No.
Yes, sir. Of course it wasn't, sir.
It really doesn't.
Ah, wonderful.
I say,
You cut off the real bad, Marcus.
if you two don't mind, may I say something?
By all means.
Go for it.
I've taken steps to ensure that certain areas of influence within this territory have shored up the territory, as it were, have made supply lines a little bit difficult, that sort of thing, for others that ain't us to operate in.
Canthos, once again, the eyebrow flicks up ever so slightly, and he says, I can understand that mentality, but I just assume that, how to phrase, we do not wish anyone to be able to trace this back to us and consider this to be us snubbing them, if that makes sense.
No, it's a thing. There's certain tools, as it were. Tools need to be transported by very unsavory individuals. Those individuals what make that transport possible is not going to make it so easy moving outside this particular territory.
Canthos will shrug, and he will say, but in that case, so the mages, in inverted commas, are not hostile. That is a good step.
I'm saying we should take. There's no one better at this than us. Okay? So, what we should do is strong. Diplomatically, of course.
Did you just say what we should do is strike diplomatically, of course?
Hey, that's what I said, yeah. If there ain't a contract, if there ain't a non-aggression pact or whatever you want to call it, we make one. We go out and we say, hey, we all want to be okay with everybody. If somebody's got a problem with that, then they got a problem with that. But then that don't, then it's already done. Ain't no reason for us to wait for them when we could do it first and better than basically anybody else.
Master Parchment does make a rather excellent case. If there is no non-aggression pact, then why not create one?
This is true.
And to be perfectly honest, might not be a bad time to do it. The sweet is, and we just got back on our feet. Might as well hit them when they destabilize. Is what I'm saying. A little bit weak, and the bollocks is out. Let's kick them. Just saying.
It's entirely up to you, my lord. If you wish to attempt to hammer out some kind of peace, that's your department, as it were.
I'll think for a second. Technically, that duty would fall to Duke Arth. Or the local Duke. I think we'd be better off going to Duke Arth with it, though. We should really find out the local Duke's name at some point.
Isn't he the one you want to have serious words with?
That's certainly a way of putting it, yes.
Ah.
So we get the peace treaty back first. Just say it. Common point of view. Okay.
Perhaps we could see how to phrase. We can, of course, ask His Grace if we are indeed allowed, or indeed if he approves of the concept of moving forward with a peace. However, that does not preclude us from testing the waters to see if the other parties may be amenable to a peace.
This is true.
Is it Sir Canthos? Or is it like Lord Canthos? Which one is it?
Beg your pardon?
Is it Sir Canthos or is it Lord Canthos? Which one is it?
Just Chamberlain Canthos will be fine.
All right, Chamberlain Canthos. There's one thing that I warn you about. You're out there and you're doing a bit of a chin wag. Only what they need to know. You're a more kind of guy instead of a less is more kind of guy. I think that one would work better.
Canthos blinks, like blink, blink, and he just kind of shrugs and he says, I personally do not think that it would be best if I oversaw these negotiations. But yes. I'm a Leonin, sir. We make a big deal about nothing on a semi-regular basis. You should see our birthday parties.
Sure. I don't know what they did with that donkey.
You don't ever want to know what we do with the donkey. But my lord, you apparently found where the mages congregate, or seem to congregate?
I found one place. I don't know if it's the only place.
Would you be amenable to going back there and maybe testing the water at some point?
I can give it a shot.
After all, what's the worst that could... No, I don't want to say that. It will end tragically. Oh, we have also coincidentally started the long process of reinfusing the donated glamour into the barony, so at least the people are starting to look healthier.
That's good.
Well, if that's everything, gentlemen, I do believe I still have to go and put a second layer of bleach on a certain room upstairs. It will never come clean.
Well, I mean, if you lot find them, I mean, the lordships find the paperwork, let me know, and I'll look over it and see what belongs to what. Certainly should be a matter of public record.
Are we good to end the scene there?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, players, for playing. If we ever have any watches in the future, thank you for watching. This has been another scene of London Madness. Have a good day, y'all.